Hi everyone, and welcome to the first lecture video where we're going to talk about chapters 1 and 2 from your textbook. In this lecture video, we're going to discuss why the topic of research methods is so important to study, even for students who don't plan on continuing along a research-related career path. Now to start, why is research methods so important? One of the questions that I often pose to my students is how research impacts their life. Although many students identify research as influencing their education and their course knowledge, most students are unaware of how much research is present in your everyday life. We see research outcomes presented to us on television, in advertisements, on the radio, from our friends, and online. Those of you old enough to remember the classic 4 out of 5 dentists recommend can understand how something even as insignificant as a toothpaste commercial can contain research findings. And in today's online world, I think we're even more bombarded by research. I'm constantly finding research output on my Facebook and on my Twitter feed, and it's shared by those friends who support the research findings. And I'm sure you all have experienced similar shares on your own social media accounts. The thing to keep in mind is that we are usually not getting the research from the original source. In fact, we're very rarely doing that, right? Most people don't enjoy the dry academic speak of peer-reviewed journals. So instead, they're going to read research summaries from secondary sources like news agencies, online media, etc. The problem is that people summarizing the information before you, they can distort or they can misunderstand the research goals and findings. And so by the time you get the actual information, it's completely unrecognizable by the original author. I love this comic from PhD Comics, and that illustrates how the research process is kind of like that game of telephone from when you were a kid. The original research study found that A is statistically correlated with B, given C, assuming D, and under E conditions. However, by that time the research is jazzed up, by the time it's summarized and it's shared repeatedly, you get your grandma building tinfoil hats to protect against A. Now obviously most interpretations are not this severe, but you can see how the process of communicating research can be challenging to do so accurately. The goal of this course is to provide you with the skills to be a critical consumer of research. When your neighbor comes over and tells you she just read a study that if you eat ice cream every day, it's going to help you lose weight, I want you to have the skills and the knowledge to locate the original source and to critically analyze the research study. Was the purpose of the original study related to ice cream and weight loss? Were the methods sufficient to answer this question? Did the researcher actually conclude that ice cream caused weight loss? And if so, are those conclusions really valid based on the research design and the methodology? Through this process of critical assessment, you can decide which research conclusions should impact your life and which you should question or maybe ignore entirely. Still not convinced? For those of you interested, there is a great video about research distortion that I've posted in the supplementary materials on my website. John Oliver did a segment on research methods, and in it, he discusses a research study that went viral after the study proved that, quote, farts cure cancer. Turns out the original researchers never mentioned farting at all in their paper. In fact, they were researching the effects of hydrogen sulfide on mitochondrial damage, and they only mentioned in passing the fact that hydrogen sulfide was naturally produced by the human body in passing. However, once the media figured out that hydrogen sulfide was excreted through passing gas, the snazzy headline, "Farts Cure Cancer," was too exciting to resist. The study went viral very quickly as a result, and it led to several ridiculous headlines like the ones that are pictured here on the slide. They had to do follow-up studies telling people, please do not smell your partner's farts because it's not actually a cure for cancer. Hopefully, you don't need this class to tell you not to smell your partner's farts. But the fact that even a finding so tiny can be distorted into what sounds like very significant findings shows you how important this type of course can be. So even if you're not intending on pursuing graduate work or pursuing a career relating or requiring research skills, you're going to still get useful skills out of this course. All right, well, that concludes the first part of the lecture videos for this module. Join me in the next video lecture as we explore the history of research ethics.